Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be exploring something I know a lot of you are interested in: longevity. Not just adding years to our lives, but making sure those years are vibrant and healthy.
Exactly. That's what we're going to be diving into.
So we're using Peter Attia's book, Outlive, as our roadmap for this deep dive. I know you're already pretty familiar with this book, so I won't bore you with the basics.
Yeah, it's a fantastic resource, packed with cutting-edge research and practical advice.
For sure. And, one of the most striking things about Attia's work is how he challenges the traditional medical model, encouraging us to move beyond just reacting to diseases.
Right. It's like he's saying we need to stop just putting out fires and actually focus on preventing them from starting in the first place.
That's a great way to put it. He uses this powerful analogy of catching eggs being thrown from a building to illustrate his point, each egg representing a disease.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Very vivid.
It is. So Attia argues that we need to stop focusing on just catching those eggs and instead look up and see who's throwing them and why. You get to those root causes of aging itself, not just the symptoms.
It makes you realize that lifespan and health span are two different things. We could live a long time, but spend those years in a state of decline.
Absolutely. It's not just about quantity, it's about quality. Attia is really emphasizing this concept of medicine 3.0, this proactive and preventative approach to aging. What are your thoughts on this shift in thinking?
Well, I think it's long overdue. For too long, medicine has been focused on treating diseases after they develop rather than preventing them in the first place.
I agree. Attia introduces what he calls the 4 horsemen of longevity, those major chronic diseases that can really dominate those later years. Heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, and this one that often gets overlooked, metabolic dysfunction.
And those horsemen are interconnected, aren't they? Often sharing similar risk factors.
Yeah. Attia really drives home the point that addressing one can have positive impacts on the others. It's like a web.
Right. And then metabolic dysfunction. It's a silent threat. It can be lurking for years before you even realize something's wrong.
It's like a termite infestation.
Right.
Slowly eating away at the foundation of your health without you even knowing it. Attia uses a very vivid analogy to explain this.
I'm curious about that. What analogy does he use?
He compares it to a bathtub. If you keep pouring water calories into a bathtub that's already full, it's going to overflow and damage the surrounding area. Same with our bodies. Too many calories, they spill over, so to speak, and start causing all sorts of problems.
Interesting. So how do we address this metabolic dysfunction?
Attia stresses the importance of early intervention and lifestyle changes.
I was going to say, it sounds like a wake-up call to start making changes before it's too late.
Exactly. Even small adjustments can make a big difference down the line. Now, I want to talk about heart disease. It's the leading cause of death worldwide. And Attia really digs into some surprising gaps in our understanding of how it develops. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one thing that stands out is how he debunks certain misconceptions around cholesterol. We're often told to just focus on lowering our total cholesterol, but he emphasizes understanding lipoproteins.
Those tiny carriers that transport cholesterol through our blood. It's not just about the amount of cholesterol, but the type of lipoproteins carrying it.
Right. He provides a great analogy to illustrate this point. He compares our arteries to busy streets. The LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, acts like bulky trucks. They're prone to getting stuck and causing traffic jams. That buildup leads to inflammation and ultimately restricts blood flow, which increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes.
And he advocates for aggressive lipid management to lower those harmful LDL particles. One of his most thought-provoking assertions is that we should aim for LDL levels similar to those found in children.
That's a bold statement.
It is, and it challenges a lot of conventional thinking. But he presents a pretty compelling argument for it.
That's what makes Outlive such a compelling read. It pushes the boundaries of traditional thinking. He's suggesting that if we adopt a more proactive stance, atherosclerosis, a leading cause of heart disease, should be a rare occurrence.
I think it's time we shift gears a bit and delve into the complexities of cancer. Attia goes into the limitations of traditional treatments, offering a fresh perspective on how we might approach this disease.
I'm particularly fascinated by his discussion of the Warburg effect.
Right. It's a really interesting concept.
Yeah. Essentially, cancer cells rewire their metabolism to fuel their uncontrolled growth. They become sugar addicts.
And that metabolic shift, that insatiable hunger for sugar, presents a vulnerability that we can target, which reinforces the significance of addressing metabolic dysfunction as part of the fight against cancer.
Precisely. Emerging research suggests a strong link between metabolic dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and a heightened risk of several types of cancer.
Attia also highlights the field of immunotherapy. It's this revolutionary approach that uses the power of our own immune system to combat cancer. He shares inspiring stories of patients who have experienced remarkable benefits from these treatments, while also acknowledging that we still have a long way to go in fully conquering this complex disease.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that our bodies have remarkable healing capabilities. Immunotherapy isn't just about directly killing cancer cells, but about making them visible to our immune systems.
So our bodies can recognize and eliminate those rogue cells naturally.
Exactly.
Early detection, of course, is still paramount. Attia emphasizes that catching cancer in its early stages greatly increases the chances of successful treatment. And that's where some of these new technologies like liquid biopsies come into play.
Those blood tests that can detect trace amounts of cancer DNA.
Yeah. They offer the potential for earlier diagnosis and more personalized treatment strategies.
So moving on, I think it's time we talk about cognitive decline, specifically neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. It's a topic that can be scary.
It is. And Attia shares a really poignant story about a patient named Stephanie. She's deeply concerned about her family history and potential risk for developing Alzheimer's. It highlights the importance of understanding and managing our individual risk factors.
Especially when it comes to the genetics of Alzheimer's.
Right. He focuses on the APOE gene, particularly certain variants that can significantly increase a person's risk. Stephanie discovers that she carries the APOE4 variant, which is known to increase the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's. It's a difficult truth to face, but as Attia points out, knowledge is power.
Understanding our risks allows us to take proactive steps to mitigate them.
And those preventive steps are crucial. Attia argues that protecting cognitive function requires a multi-pronged approach. Vascular health, metabolic balance, managing inflammation, it's all connected.
It's fascinating how the research is revealing such a strong correlation between a healthy heart and a healthy brain.
Right. He also sheds light on the limitations of current treatments for Alzheimer's, which mainly focus on targeting amyloid plaques in the brain. They're promising, but haven't yielded the desired results.
And that's where Attia's emphasis on lifestyle interventions comes in.
He's a big advocate for incorporating regular exercise, prioritizing quality sleep, a nutrient-rich diet, and effective stress management techniques. All these things can bolster brain health and potentially delay or prevent cognitive decline.
Absolutely. It's about building resilience and supporting optimal brain function throughout life. And that's not all. He even talks about the potential benefits of regular sauna sessions.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Right. Studies have linked sauna use to a reduced risk of Alzheimer's and other dementias.
It's amazing how seemingly simple things can have such a profound impact on our health.
It really speaks to the power of lifestyle interventions.
So we've explored some potential threats to longevity. Now let's shift gears and discuss some actionable strategies to combat them, starting with exercise. Attia presents exercise as a vital component of our longevity plan, not just a way to stay fit.
He challenges us to think beyond the traditional recommendations and consider our aspirations for our later years. He wants us to envision our own centenarian decathlon.
I love that concept. What activities do we want to be doing in our 80s, 90s, and beyond? It's about training for the life we want to live, not just for the next few years.
Exactly. And the specific events in that centenarian decathlon will obviously vary based on individual goals and aspirations, but the fundamental principle remains the same. Train for function and longevity.
So what are some specific types of exercise that Attia recommends for longevity?
He emphasizes two main types, Zone 2 aerobic training and strength training. Zone 2 is all about enhancing our aerobic base and optimizing mitochondrial health. It's that sweet spot where you're breathing a little harder than normal, but can still hold a conversation.
And then there's strength training.
Right, which is crucial for preserving muscle mass and strength. Both are essential for maintaining our physical capabilities as we age. We need to be able to move freely and perform daily tasks without struggling. And let's not forget about stability training.
Oh, you're right. Attia shares personal anecdotes about how injuries can really derail our fitness journeys. It's like building a sturdy foundation that can withstand the wear and tear of life.
He explains how stability training differs from traditional strength training by emphasizing functional movement patterns. It's about strengthening the muscles that support our joints and spine, developing a body that moves well, gracefully, and can handle daily demands without breaking down.
Now let's move on to the often confusing world of nutrition. It's a minefield out there with so much conflicting information.
Attia acknowledges that. He really emphasizes a personalized approach to nutrition, moving away from the idea of one-size-fits-all diets.
Yeah. He criticizes the endless diet wars and this tendency to demonize certain foods or macronutrients. He suggests we focus on understanding our individual metabolic makeup and customizing our diets to support our specific needs and goals.
He's really advocating for taking a more scientific, data-driven approach to nutrition.
He does. And he candidly shares his own journey of nutritional discovery, which began with something as simple as eliminating added sugar from his diet.
Sometimes the smallest changes can make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. And speaking of making a difference, let's not forget the power of sleep.
Sleep. Attia calls it the best medicine for our brain.
And he's not wrong. It plays a crucial role in bolstering our physical and mental well-being.
He talks about the different stages of sleep, REM sleep and deep sleep, and how they're essential for all sorts of things. Restorative processes, memory consolidation, hormone regulation, and of course, he cautions against chronic sleep deprivation. It can have serious consequences for our health, increasing the risk of everything from metabolic dysfunction to heart disease and cognitive decline.
He even shares personal anecdotes about his own struggles with sleep deprivation during his medical training. It's a reminder that even those who are dedicated to health can fall into the trap of neglecting sleep.
It's so easy to let it slide when you're busy, but Attia offers some practical advice for improving sleep hygiene.
Like establishing a consistent sleep schedule, dimming the lights in the evening, making sure your bedroom is cool, dark, and quiet. Really optimizing that sleep environment.
He's a proponent of using a white noise machine or earplugs if you need to block out distracting sounds. And, of course, avoid alcohol before bed as it can disrupt sleep patterns.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's pause for a moment and reflect on what we've learned so far. We've explored Attia's concept of the four horsemen, those threats to longevity: heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and metabolic dysfunction. We talk about how they're interconnected and the importance of a proactive approach to health.
We've looked at the importance of lifestyle interventions like exercise, nutrition, sleep, and how they can contribute to extending our health span and potentially our lifespan.
And I think it's important to reiterate that this is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely. Attia reminds us that longevity isn't about discovering a magic pill. It's about making informed decisions and developing habits that support our health over the long term. Building a foundation for a life that's not just longer, but richer, more vibrant, and more fulfilling.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, which we'll explore in our next segment, the often overlooked aspect of longevity: emotional health.
It's something Attia gets very personal about in the book, and it's something I think we can all relate to.
For sure. He shares his struggles with anger, depression, and the impact they had on his relationships and overall well-being.
His willingness to be vulnerable is really powerful, and I think it makes his insights all the more relatable.
I agree. So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into Outlive. We'll be back to delve deeper into the realm of emotional health and its significance in living a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Attia's exploration of emotional health is really eye-opening. It's often overshadowed by the physical aspects of longevity.
It is, but he makes a compelling case for its importance. I think his willingness to be so open about his personal struggles makes it even more impactful.
I agree. He talks about his own challenges with anger management and the effects those had on his relationships. It just adds a layer of authenticity.
Right. It makes you realize that we're all on this journey together, dealing with our own unique challenges.
Exactly. And then he goes on to talk about the societal implications of neglecting emotional well-being.
Oh, yeah. Connecting it to issues like substance abuse and even violence.
Right. And it really underscores the fact that taking care of our mental and emotional health isn't just a personal matter. It's a collective responsibility.
We're all connected, and neglecting one aspect of our well-being can have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
So he argues that the current model of mental health care, which often relies heavily on medication, is inadequate.
Yeah, he's proposing a more holistic approach, one that addresses the root causes of emotional distress and gives people the tools to cultivate real well-being. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he's onto something. He emphasizes the importance of finding what works for you individually. Therapy can be a valuable tool for self-discovery and growth.
He encourages people to experiment with different modalities and find a therapist who resonates with them. It's a personalized journey.
It is. And then he brings up this concept from dialectical behavior therapy called distress tolerance.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It's about learning to manage those tough emotions effectively without letting them control your actions.
Right. He uses this great analogy of a window to illustrate this point.
That certain behaviors can either widen or narrow that window of tolerance. Exactly. Things like regular exercise, prioritizing sleep, nurturing those supportive relationships, those can all expand that window, making us less reactive to stress.
And on the flip side, chronic stress, substance abuse, unresolved conflicts, those can constrict that window, making us more vulnerable to emotional dysregulation.
Exactly. And then he emphasizes self-care not as an indulgence, but as a necessity for maintaining emotional balance.
It's about making conscious choices that nourish our mental and emotional well-being.
And of course, he underscores the vital role of human connection. As social creatures, those bonds are crucial for our health and longevity.
We thrive on connection.
We do. He encourages us to invest in those meaningful relationships and build supportive communities that contribute to our overall well-being. You know, one of the things that really stuck with me was that quote he shares from his therapist, Esther Perel.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Why would you want to live longer if you're so unhappy?
It's such a simple question, but so profound. It forces us to confront our priorities and consider the quality of our lives, not just the quantity of years.
It's a good reminder that longevity is about more than just extending our lifespan. It's about enriching those years with purpose, meaning, joy, connection, creating a life that we actually want to live, a life that feels vibrant and fulfilling.
He talks about shifting our perspective from fearing death to embracing life.
Right. Actively engaging with the world around us and pursuing the things that matter to us. He reminds us that we have the power to shape our own narratives, create a life that reflects our values.
And he shares the story of his friend, Rick Kay, a successful entrepreneur who really embodies this approach.
Kay says that people age when they lose that forward momentum, when they become fixated on the past and let go of their dreams.
It's a great reminder to keep our sights on the horizon, to nurture a sense of curiosity and wonder, and to never stop learning and growing.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, we've explored the multifaceted nature of emotional health and its impact on longevity.
We've discussed the importance of cultivating self-awareness, seeking help when needed, nurturing those meaningful relationships, and prioritizing self-care.
Attia provides so much valuable information, but it's ultimately up to each of us to take what resonates and apply it to our own lives.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to longevity. It's a journey of self-discovery.
We each need to find our own path.
We do. It's about embracing the process, experimenting with different approaches, and finding what works best for us.
And remembering that it's not about achieving perfection, but about striving for progress.
There will be setbacks and challenges along the way, but the key is to learn from those experiences and keep moving forward. Attia reminds us that longevity isn't about finding a magic solution. It's about making conscious choices that support our well-being over the long term.
It's about building a foundation for a life that's not just longer, but richer, more vibrant, more fulfilling.
And that brings us to the heart of his message. Longevity is about living a life worth living. It's about creating a life that's filled with purpose, meaning, joy, and connection. A life that we wake up each day excited to embrace.
And on that note, let's take a moment to absorb all of this wisdom. Get ready for the final leg of our deep dive into Outlive. We'll be back shortly to wrap up this exploration and leave you with something to ponder as you embark on your own longevity journey. We've really delved deep into Outlive. From the science of aging to the importance of emotional well-being, it's inspiring. But honestly, it can feel a bit overwhelming thinking about how to put all this into practice.
I understand it's a lot to absorb. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, think of it like building your personal toolkit for longevity.
I like that. A toolkit. So we don't have to use every single tool at once.
Exactly. You pick and choose what resonates with you, what feels manageable at the moment, and gradually incorporate those tools into your life.
That takes the pressure off trying to change everything overnight. Makes it feel more sustainable. More like a marathon than a sprint.
Exactly. Attia uses the analogy of driving. You need to stay alert, adjust to changing conditions, and learn as you go.
Right, because there will be bumps in the road. It's not about being perfect. It's about embracing the journey and learning from those bumps.
Absolutely. Longevity is about resilience, adapting to challenges, and continuing to move forward.
So, for someone just starting their longevity journey, where do they begin? What are some practical first steps?
Well, the first step is to look inward. Ask yourself, what does a long, healthy, fulfilling life look like to me? What are my values? What brings me joy and purpose? Those answers will guide your path.
It's about defining longevity on your own terms. not trying to fit into someone else's mold.
Right. Then think about your centenarian decathlon. What do you want to be doing in your 80s, 90s, and beyond? What experiences do you want to have? Having that vision can motivate you.
It's empowering to think about designing the life you want, even decades from now.
It is. Once you have that vision, start small. Choose 1 or 2 areas you want to improve. Maybe incorporating more movement, making better food choices, or getting better sleep.
Small changes over time can lead to big results.
Exactly. And remember, progress, not perfection, is the goal. There will be setbacks. Don't get discouraged. Learn and keep moving forward.
Attia's message is so powerful. Longevity isn't just about living longer, it's about living better, making those years count.
It's about creating a life that's rich and meaningful.
So, as a final takeaway, why don't we distill the key lessons from Outlive into 10 actionable points for our listeners?
Great idea. Here are 10 key takeaways from Outlive by Peter Attia. Embrace a proactive mindset. Shift from reacting to disease to preventing it.
Take control of your health.
Number 2, focus on the 4 horsemen. Make preventing heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and metabolic dysfunction a priority.
And remember, they're interconnected. Addressing one can help with the others.
Number 3, prioritize lifestyle interventions. Make exercise, nutrition, and sleep the foundation of your longevity plan.
It's about building a solid base for a long and healthy life.
Number 4, train for your centenarian decathlon. Envision yourself in your 80s, 90s, even beyond. What do you want to be doing? Train for function and longevity.
Not just for how you look today.
Number 5, incorporate Zone 2 aerobic training. Improve your aerobic base and mitochondrial health with consistent, moderately paced exercise.
That's the sweet spot where you're breathing harder but can still talk.
Right. Number 6, embrace strength training. Maintain muscle mass and strength as you age with regular strength training.
It's essential for staying strong and independent.
Number 7, cultivate stability. Build a body that moves well and can handle daily demands without breaking down.
Focus on those muscles that support your joints and spine.
Number 8, personalize your nutrition. There's no one-size-fits-all diet. Experiment, pay attention to how your body responds, and find what works for you.
It's about tuning into your unique needs.
Number 9, prioritize sleep. Treat sleep like the powerful medicine it is. Create a sleep sanctuary and make sure you're getting enough.
Our bodies and minds need that time to rest and repair.
And finally, number 10, nurture emotional well-being. Cultivate self-awareness. Don't hesitate to seek support and prioritize those relationships that matter most.
Remember, longevity isn't just about the years we live. It's about how we experience those years.
It's about living a life filled with joy, purpose, and connection.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Outlive. We hope you found it informative and empowering. It's been a fascinating journey, and we encourage you to continue exploring these concepts and create your own path to a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life.
Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.